All right, guys. So I got an interesting question on Twitter directed at me from a Twitter follower, and I may start doing more videos like this because it gives me a more direct topic to talk about. Okay, and it gives me more content as well too. So I might start answering you guys' questions in video format that you send me on Twitter. So if you have anything that you want me to make a video about, like a very specific topic, just send me the question on Twitter, and I will consider making a video about it. So this question right here I found to be very interesting because this is something that I've kind of been touching on for the last few weeks. And, I think a lot of people in this country currently feel the same way that this Twitter follower feels about the direction of this country. So I wanted to shed some light on this subject because I think it's very important. So the tweet says, "Hey, I watch your videos all the time. Today's was great. I wrote a super long tweet earlier, but I guess it was only to me. So hope you will consider covering what you think the end game is of this whole identity politics they're pushing and critical race theory. I'm a white middle-aged guy, but far from racist and not privileged either. Shit, both my accounts are negative and I'm unemployed. My father made good money and we live comfortable, but that's gone, and honestly, there is more to life than money. I know you see what is going on, and I'm personally worried about the kids of and the future of this country. I'm tired of being called racist. Shit, I was the only white guy in an all-black church. Pastor would call me out from the pulpit. I'm hoping to get some insight from you because I don't see it ending well for anyone. And it's got to be more than votes and power. The Democrat Party is going to spawn extremists, real ones. Why? Votes division. That's maybe in the short term, but the cost, Greg, I respect your views and opinions. Just needed to get this. Greg, off to you. It's extremely worrisome, and I'm tired, man. I get along with everyone except stupid, and that comes in all forms. Hopefully, you can make time to cover this, and thank you. Today's video was great." All right, so thank you, sir, for sending me this question, and I know you wanted me to cover this, and this is an interesting topic, so I'm going to talk about it. First, in regards to what the end game is of identity politics and critical race theory. Okay, my opinions on that. Now, guys, I'm gonna keep it 100% honest with you. I don't think there's ever going to be an end game to identity politics. Now, I think the question that he wants answered is, does he think there's going to be a end game to identity politics based off race? Okay, those are two different things. Because, guys, identity politics is politics, right? Politics is based off identity. When you're a politician, you're trying to appeal to somebody based off their lived experiences. So let's take race and gender out of it. If I come up to you and I say, hey, I'm very Christian, I have strong family values, okay, and that's based off my Christian background. That is identity politics. I'm trying to identify with you based off religion. Let's say I come to you and I start talking about being low income, coming from a low income neighborhood or a, not as privileged background. That's identity politics. Let's say I start talking to you about how I'm from the city or how I'm from the country or I'm from this part of America. That's identity politics based off location. All that is identity politics. You're trying to identify with somebody based off certain characteristics. Now, the right is very concerned about identity politics when it comes to race and gender. And I think that that's for good reason. Because identity politics based off race and gender is more divisive. And that's not necessarily based off policy. It's one thing to have identity politics based off guns. At the very least, that's a policy-oriented issue. Okay, that's a policy-oriented thing. But if it's based off gender and sex, that's more about division. Okay, it's more about trying to victimize a certain group of people or trying to make a certain group of people look to be more superior than others. And I think that causes division. So like I said, I don't think there's ever going to be an end game to identity politics because identity politics is politics. Now, will there ever be an end to identity politics based off race and gender? Honestly, I just don't know. I just don't know. I think that as time moves on, and this country becomes more diverse, I think it could go either way, right? We could get to the point where the country has become so diverse. You have a majority minority status where you have, again, whites make up less than 50% of the country. That could lead to a place where people may not feel the need to talk about identity politics based off race, or maybe to be more accurate, talk about identity politics based off being anti-white. Okay, because I think that's really the biggest issue right now is the anti-white sentiment, the overt anti-white sentiment that's happening in this country. Okay, and maybe as America becomes again more diverse, maybe that doesn't become a thing anymore. But who knows? I mean, some of these woke revolutionaries may never be satisfied regardless of the white population. Okay, if the Hispanic population ever overtakes the white population, who knows? People may still feel the need to, for whatever reason, continue to demonize white people for things that happened in the past. Regardless of that, I don't think there will ever be an end to identity politics in terms of the media and politicians finding a way to divide. If it's not by race, it'll be by something else. Okay, it'll be by religion, it'll be by, socioeconomic status, it'll be by whatever they can find in order to drive viewership and to basically distract from the real issues that's going on. I think that that's something that we've seen happen throughout history. Okay, and I think it will continue to happen. It may or may not be on race in the future. Who knows? We could all get to a point in this society where, we've all become so mixed and intermingled that race may not be that big of an issue anymore. Okay, it could be where you live. It could be whether you live in a country, whether you live in a city. Okay, it could be based off a number of factors, right? It's just race is what is dividing us now, right? That's historically been our issue. But again, as this country becomes more diverse, it may or may not stay that way. I don't know. I think what's actually going to happen is that I think people, particularly white people, are going to become more aware that they are white. I think before this woke revolution, I think a lot of people in this country, again, particularly white people, didn't really see themselves as white. Okay, they didn't really see themselves as a white community. Okay, they just saw themselves as, oh, I'm just a regular, normal, everyday person. That's how they see themselves. That's just my opinion, right? And I think what the woke revolutionaries have done is made a lot of these people who otherwise were not necessarily thinking about the interest of white people. Okay, obviously, there is some racial identity there. Obviously, they know that they're white, but I'm saying it's not a part of their identity. They don't identify as, oh, I'm a white American. That's not what they say. They're like, oh, I'm just American, right? Unlike, other people, they may say, oh, I'm a Chinese American, or I'm an Asian American, I'm an Indian American, I'm an Arab American, I'm a Black American. All the other ethnicity groups do that. White people don't necessarily do that. They don't say I'm a Caucasian American. You don't see that a lot, okay? And the woke revolutionaries, whether they realize it or not, they have actually created a white identity, right? That's what they have done, because they've identified traditional American values and associated those traditional American values with whiteness. Okay, so they've really created a monster, right, that they say that they're trying to fight and avoid. They've really created that monster, because before this was not really a thing. Now, because of woke revolutionaries telling white people that, hey, you're bad because you're racist, you're prejudiced, this is inherent, you can't control it, this is a white dominated society, this is a white power structure, that's probably made people more aware of their quote unquote whiteness. It just has, because now you have to start thinking about, okay, am I going to offend somebody? Am I being racist? Okay, do I have privilege? Those are the things that people are starting to think about. And combining all this with the overt anti-white rhetoric is, I think, going to make it so you're going to see a lot more talk about working in the interest of the white community, okay? And ultimately, again, that could create more racial division in the long run. That's why I said, like, I don't know if there can ever be an end to racial identity politics, because I think that white people probably will start weaponizing that more as time moves on. I think that's going to continue to make racial identity politics more prevalent. And again, that's being led by the woke revolutionaries on the left. Now, when it comes to critical race theory, listen, I think that critical race theory definitely shouldn't be taught in school. But at the same time, I mean, you do see a lot of governors and red states moving against critical race theory. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be that big of a deal in public schools, particularly in red states and more conservative parts of this country. I think where it will show up a lot is in the federal government and in the private workplace. But at that point, these are businesses, okay? And, they can make their choices in terms of what they want to promote in their companies. And at the same time, we're all adults, right? And we can choose to make our own decisions about what we want to believe. I think I would be more particularly concerned about it being taught to children. But again, in red states, I don't necessarily see that as too much of an issue because you see a lot of governors and lawmakers moving against it. Now, my main issue when it comes to education and race is that you're seeing a lot of these states and some of these school districts move towards what they call more equitable education, right? So they're trying to get rid of advanced math classes and advanced STEM classes to try to level the playing field. And I think that's really bad. I think that's really bad for everybody. Okay, I think that's really bad for all races because essentially what you're saying is that you're holding back the top talent. You're dumbing down the top talent for the sake of those who are not as talented as those at the top. And those super talented kids, they need to be nurtured. They need to be in classes that are going to challenge them because these are the future innovators in our society. These are the kids that are going to help us compete and stay competitive in this country. We do have an education problem in this country. I think that we're probably one of the worst developed nations when it comes to education and academics. I mean, if you look at this chart here from Pew Research, when it comes to science, math, and reading scores from the International Student Assessment, you see that the United States ranks behind a lot of these countries, these developed nations, in regards to science, math, and reading, especially when it comes to math. But yeah, we have these woke school districts trying to take away advanced math classes, trying to take away the SAT, okay, trying to take away a standardized way of assessing the quality of our education. And in my opinion, I think that's the biggest issue when it comes to the whole critical race theory thing, right? The critical race theory having an influence on the curriculum and the things that our kids are being taught in school, right? In regards to reading, math, and science. I think that's the biggest issue that I have with critical race theory, because we cannot be holding those back that are gifted just for the sake of trying to have everybody be the same. Everybody's not the same. We have to compete on the world stage. And a lot of these woke revolutionaries don't like the idea of competition. That's why they embrace socialism. That's why they embrace communism. That's why they want everybody to be the same, because they don't like competing. We have to compete on the world stage when it comes to technology. Okay? Technology is the new gold. And again, dumbing down our education system just for the sake of race is going to hurt the future of this country. And that's not to say that those who are not, as gifted in math and science should be left behind. No, those people definitely should be allowed to learn real world skills that are going to allow them to get good middle class jobs right after high school, or either by doing 2 years in community college. That's what we should be focused on. And he also says that, he's tired of being called racist, right? Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Just stop caring about it. It's the same way that I try to tell black people, stop caring about white supremacy, stop caring about white privilege, stop caring about racism. Okay? Stop caring about being called racist. I'm so serious about that. If somebody calls you racist, like, all right, whatever. That's the same way I feel about the N-word. Okay? If somebody calls me the N-word, I'm like, okay. Like, you see what I'm saying? When you don't care, it takes the power out of language, right? Somebody calls you racist because they want to hurt you. Okay, when somebody says you're a racist, they're doing it to make you feel a certain way about yourself. If that doesn't work, if they're not able to change your emotions or to change the way you feel about yourself, then ultimately that word loses all power. And once that word has lost power, you're not really going to hear it anymore, because people aren't going to waste their time calling you something that does not hurt you. Okay? And this is how I feel about the N-word too. And that's why, I don't understand why so many people get upset about people saying the N-word. I'm like, you're actually really just giving that word so much more power than it actually has to have. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that everybody should say it, but I'm not saying that it should be banned either. Okay? I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, people got to make a choice. Do you want this word to be all powerful, or do you want it to be powerless? White people don't get mad when people say the C word. right? They call them, all types of white racial slurs out here. I don't see the same response from white folks. And that's why you don't really see people calling them the word all the time, because these words don't really have power. So it's the same thing with being called racist. Somebody calls you racist. All right, well, that's just how you feel. Keep it moving. Don't worry about it. So I hope I answered your questions. If I didn't, I apologize. But, send me these questions, guys. This gives me good video content to talk about. And I definitely want to hear from you guys and, be able to help you guys out as much as I can in terms of navigating this stuff and understanding this stuff. There's still stuff that I really don't understand. And a lot of this stuff is just my gut feelings. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.